knowledge, this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
How are you?
Hey, who wants to help me get this recorder out of here? I need some muscle over here.
You are listening to Blame Your Brother.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Blame Your Brother. We are back once again, episode 153. Remember, check us out every Thursday night, 8 p.m. at blameyourbrother.tv or catch the podcast following day on all podcast platforms. We are Blame Your Brother. We come to you live every week, and there are three of us that do that. I am one-third of that trio. I am David, a.k.a. D-Brew, voice of the people, Mr. 40%, Glenn Jackson, the spiritual midget, and I'm joined by this man who sits to the left of me. It's my brother. It's Lee.
What up, everyone? It is the Saul of podcasting, the one and only LeBron Safety Pin.
And then way over here on the right, we've got the one, the only. It's John.
Hey, everybody. John here, a.k.a. Tico, a.k.a. Mr. Groupon, Mr. PTI, the Madman.
They got John Tortorella, a madman.
They do have
Okay,
That's
he's a
right.
madman.
And then tonight we have a very, very special guest. We have two Johns in the house. It is the man running for mayor of Nashville. Is John Cooper. How you doing, John?
I am doing great. It's a treat to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. It's people demanded it, and we kind of worked things out, and so we're here and we're ready to rock and roll.
Call of the people. I like that.
we like
I
it.
want to be called.
That's what we do. So, yeah, so we got a lot to get into. So real quick, we'll start. The three of us, John, we say a lot of things sometimes that fall out of bounds, and we offer this chance at the beginning of the show for us to make apologies, retractions, omissions. So we'll start, Lee. Was there anything you need to apologize for last week's episode?
I think it might have been the one episode where everyone was clean, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Out of 152.
Yeah. There's been a lot of apologies.
All right. Well, lets me know what to expect.
Now, Jay Tort tonight. What? Anything for you?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. All right. We'll
Are
get
you
going.
sure you don't have anything?
Me, no. Everything.
Let me
was,
check the notes. Let me double check the notes.
We talked about the Bigfoot sighting, and I stand solid on all that. So, okay. Well, let's get started.
Wait. I think I took it a little easy on Lena Dunham.
Okay.
And I think her fans were upset that
I'm sure.
I didn't really throw the book at her. So
Thank you.
I apologize.
There we go. Well, we're going to talk to John about all things, but we're gonna ask for your advice first. Your advice.
Okay.
So we are. I mean, you. If people don't know, running for mayor, you had the first.
It's going well.
First election.
It's going well.
Got big percentage, like 35%.
35%.
That's insane. So, but unfortunately, as it works for you, if you don't get 51%,
there is another.
Yes, there's a runoff. So now you're in a runoff against the mayor right now, David Briley. And we are also in a competition. The Best of Nashville scene is coming out with the 2019 Best of Awards.
Voting has started, by the way.
Voting has started, and last year we came in third. So,
okay.
So what advice would you give us to go out and get some extra votes? And because you seem to really connect with people from what I've seen on social media and talking to people, what is some advice you could give us?
I'm giving this advice 5 times a week. Remember to ask for their vote. Ask for your vote. I'm asking for your vote there in podcast land. Ask for your vote, and you will win the election.
There you go. I like that. We probably need to do more of that for sure. We were just hoping people kind of show up and do it. But
tell people how to participate too. Okay. How to enter that competition.
There you go. So that's some thoughts. So that was kind of a plug to say you can go vote for us now. Best of Nashville scene. 2019. We want to win this year.
Okay, so just so you know, his idea was to offer Amazon gift cards to people who voted. I don't know if that's legal or not.
It's probably legal in your space.
But I'm just saying there
Probably
might be like a $25, a $50 gift card floating around. Who knows?
In your future.
There will be 4 gift cards given to random. If you vote and show us you voted, we will select 4 random people and we'll give gift cards. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a. We're not giving. It's not a payola.
No entry required.
Entry required. Okay, no, we have to show us you voted.
Okay.
Yeah. So
is that like a camera phone? Like take a picture with your
snapshot,
camera?
send us the email, do whatever you got to do.
Okay.
So you go. All right. So election coming up. So you are a Metro Councilman at large, correct?
I am.
Okay.
At large.
At large, yes. So how did you get into politics? Because where did you? You're not a politician, career politician.
Well,
right?
I've been around politics, and in terms of blaming your brother, I have a brother. I occasionally blame, who is actually a congressman, and I managed his campaign periodically in his career. So I've been around it, but for the last 25 years, I've been in business. And I got to the point in my career where I thought it would be fun. I always wanted to do it. I thought I had something to offer. The business that I was in real estate. And, a modern city is about real estate and finance. And I felt I had strengths in those two areas, and the city needed it. So 4 years ago, I did real well. Only one person in the history of Metro has ever gotten more votes than I did for running for at-large.
Wow.
The great Joanne North in the 1980s.
Wow.
Right? It's kind of a Babe Ruth level mark that she posted.
Yeah.
So I got onto the council, and when I was there, you learn a lot about Metro, and I realized that really for the city to be the great city that we needed to be, we needed to make some changes, and kind of businessy changes. I like to say I'm the right mayor for right now because the finances are a mess. We can go into that later in the show, and also the city feels a little out of balance. We've had all this growth. Where are we? Are we being? It's going to be as great a city going forward as it has been in the past. We need to make sure that it is. That doesn't necessarily happen on its own, right? So having somebody really looking after that's a good idea. And then I felt that we weren't doing it. We were continuing to make financial mistakes, and that I had something to offer. And I've got 3 boys, and what am I going to tell them? They're teenagers. I'm going to say, follow your dream, serve the public. And it was hard for me to look at myself and then think that I was not living up to the advice I was going to be giving them, that this was a dream of mine to do it, and I had a lot to offer, and public service is a high ideal when you can get that done. And so I had to do it. Otherwise, I needed to put a sock in my mouth when I was going to give them parental advice about, what's a great life.
Good.
Well, weird, but so there I was. For a long time, I did not want to run because it's daunting. It's a big city, a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of need. There's a lot of listening that has to go on. You'd be wrong not to be daunted by that by a little bit, but ultimately I felt the moment required doing it. And so in the middle of April, not that long ago, I went ahead and plunged in.
And here we are today.
I'd kind of like to hear a little bit more about the sock in the mouth, because I would like that on you, actually, David. I think that would be a good look for you.
No.
Maybe just for a change.
It's a shoe sock, not a sock.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Is that what you got out of it? I was very inspired by all
Yeah,
that,
it was
and you
very
got that
inspiring.
one little part of it.
I obviously was inspired.
So what?
Blame your brother.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get a lot of that. So what are some of the tenets of? Because a lot of people ask about transportation.
Yes.
If you live in Nashville, or I live outside of Nashville, but commute to Nashville every day, and traffic is obviously a big concern.
Terrible.
So what people want to know? What is your plan? Is it involve mass transit? Is it more buses? Because they don't think buses alone is a solution.
We should spend some time on it because it's hugely important for a city. And unless you get on it, you're making everybody's life a little bit less good. Last year's transit plan was not the right plan. So $9 billion, it was going to take all of our money for generations. You're not going to have any more money for schools. And it actually didn't make traffic better. So one of the reasons it didn't make traffic better is you probably come into Nashville on an interstate.
Right.
Well, you got to then connect the interstate overload to a transit system, or you're never offloading traffic from the interstate.
Right.
How do you actually get to work or somebody actually get to school? You got to connect those two systems. So very expensive trains and a subway downtown is not going to cure our interstate system until you figure out parking rods, how you flow the traffic to that, and then how do you get to where you want to go more quickly. Ultimately, that plan, if you netted out the travel time, it wasn't saving anybody's any time, and it was really a real estate development plan for downtown. It was not helping, and the people that voted for it and against it is exactly the people that were going to be served by it. And ultimately, most of Nashville was not going to be served by it, but they were going to have to pay for it. So too little benefits that cost too much. But you don't have to start all the way over, because you get a lot of studies and there's data and there's information. You need to take that and go forward. So next year I have somebody in mind who I want to come up when I'm mayor and get on it and come up with a transportation plan next year. And it's going to pick all the low-hanging fruit. It's going to intersections, turning lanes, express lanes, all this stuff that's not that expensive. And I'll give one little example. Down in Atlanta on North Avenue, it's the busiest corridor in Atlanta now. It's not Peachtree, it's North Avenue because of the Ponce Market redevelopment. They've improved by 7% the throughput of North Avenue through a true smart corridor. A true smart corridor. Its cost, $3 million. $3 million, 7% improvement. Well, you've got traffic lights that actually know how many cars are queued up. It's got traffic lights that know where the bus is. And it's going to change to get the bus through more quickly, so then people start riding the bus because, in fact, it's quicker to do that.
Right.
Hey, that's the kind of stuff you have to start looking at right now. So it's going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, I think, this plan, but not $9 billion. And but you got to get on it, and then have another plan, then another plan. Never stop improving. Never stop improving. And because we stopped in Nashville, that's been a problem. One more thing. In 2014, we did a study, the worst intersections in Davidson County. They're like 50 plus, 50, 55. Almost all of our fatalities have happened there. All of our serious injuries happened there. Half of them are state roads. Maybe the state should pay for it. We've only worked on 3 of them in all those years. And 2 of those are downtown. You got to get on it out in the county and all this low-hanging fruit and get with it. Not to make people suffer because you're trying to build some huge transit plan that probably isn't helping you. Maybe helping somebody who moves downtown by 15 years from now. But also probably not. This old fixed rail process of going to a railroad batch processing, that's really 20th century, right? We kind of evolved beyond that. Are you organizing your life to, in a batch mode, go somewhere that you actually don't want to go, but then you have to go to somewhere else and you're not really getting there? Not in the Uber, Lyft world of distributed processing of the cell phone, and your pocket is really allowing rods to be very efficiently picked up and dropped off in the future. Regardless of self-driving, whatever, which probably won't happen right away, you have routing improvements. You have the ability to use routing information to change your bus routes, to load up buses, to have people there. At the end, this only works if life becomes more convenient, lower cost and more convenient. If I'm not able to deliver that proposition to the consumer or to the voter, then it's wasting everybody's time.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's very.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
This is a good format, an hour-long show. You can go into.
Oh,
it
go,
detail.
please go. I mean,
Okay.
I haven't heard a lot of that before, so I enjoy.
I
hearing
could
it.
spend some time on this. Yes.
It almost seems too simple, but I think leveraging the technology is huge because it's 2019. Technology plays such an active role in our life, like you said, the smartphones and everything.
Well, and to invest in an old product cycle, which is really a 19th century product, which is trains and batch processing, right now is particularly crazy because transportation is undergoing one of the biggest revolutions of all time. Now, so you're going to spend billions of dollars to put steel rails, old-fashioned, in a moment when Ford Motor Company does not believe it's going to be selling cars to private individuals in 12 years. In 12 years. They're not going to do that anymore. Well, that's a whole lot of change that's going on in the world, in America.
Oh, that's for sure. Now, people also want to know about one of the big items, it's Sports Town, and we're going to get to soccer people. So people ask, will you continue the construction of the MLS Soccer Stadium? Are you going to cancel it? That was one of the big big questions we got to ask.
Well, I'm glad you're asking. The decision was made to have soccer. We have to make it a success. Now, nobody on the council, everybody kind of looks at the council and think all this stuff. All we know since that vote is what we've read in the newspapers, which is not really very much. So I don't know quite what the challenges are going ahead, but frankly, we need to make soccer a success. We need to make all of our prominent things in Nashville a success and be glad for those that are. Belmont, Trevecca, huge successes. HCA, huge success. Think what the city would be if HCA had stayed in Louisville, Kentucky. Wow, we would have a different city today. So you also have another thing I want to share with your listeners. Like it or not, Nashville, Tennessee is a international tourist destination. We had 15.5 million visitors last year. Glad for all of them. Japan only had 30 million. So you're talking about a tourist business that is half the size of the country of Japan. Okay. Woo. Right. So, and it employs a whole lot of people. So you cannot let that business be anything other than a success. And you've got to grow it, and you've got to grow it the right way, and you have to have stuff for people to do. For example, out of the fairgrounds, I think that racing can add to the general experience for people in Nashville and tourists, but you're going to have to invest in that business too. So soccer, I think, ends up being one of our jewels. I hope we get a women's team. I mean, if we've committed to building a soccer stadium, and I'll go ahead and say, I did vote against that bill because I wanted that stadium to be downtown, not at the fairgrounds. I thought downtown was a much more logical place to put it. It solved a whole lot of problems. It adds to the tourist base. It reinforces the hospitality business, etc. I did vote against it. That is passed, and we were already spending tens of millions of dollars on that site. So you got to somehow land that plane in a way that's a super success for Nashville. But again, women's team. Okay. All right. Let's get on that too. And, in some ways, the women's game may be more popular in places even than the men's game in soccer. But if we're down that path, we need to succeed as a city. It's inspiring to run for mayor. We are a very ambitious city. And that's great in America because not every place is. Not every place has figured out how to be ambitious. Our problem is we need to be ambitious and get it done the right way. And not without reason can every one of us should be concerned that that's not necessarily happening. That growth on its own does not necessarily create the best of all cities. Right? You got to manage the growth, and if you're doing it kind of topsy-turvy and you don't have the infrastructure and you don't have the plans, etc., you should not take it for granted that all this is going to happen and look at all these other cities that I would just as soon not live in, right? But we're all thrilled to live here.
Yeah, that's true.
So to touch on the tourism thing again, another hot button topic that's come up is the scooters, the Battle Taverns. Have you heard much feedback on that?
Yeah, you totally do. And, our own Tourism and Convention Bureau Chief Executive Officer, I will tell you, very critical of where the Paddle Taverns has gotten us. Particularly the overboard, the hot tub, it's making downtown Nashville seem cheap, right, and touristy. Mm-hmm. And if we wanted to live in, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale or Key West, we could live in Fort Lauderdale and Key West. And this is not, it's a little bit of a bundle of contradictions in Nashville. I'm an old Tennessee person. The Ryman Auditorium was a temple to prohibition and temperance. That's why it was built. So it is a little bit ironic that more beer is sold within just walking space of, Billy Sunday's temple to temperance. But the hot tub business, we don't need to go in that direction. We don't need to be Las Vegas. We're a powerful national attraction for the reasons that we need to respect is that people can come and have a good time, and it's safe, and it's pretty elevated. It's not, tourism on its own, you do worry, runs always downhill to T-shirt shops and beer. Okay, well, if that's all you got, then you're not creating this platform for growth. And so having cultural, sports, entertainment, a wide variety of activities ends up being important. And the Paddle Taverns, it probably has gone overboard. We don't want to be famous for being the Paddle Tavern moving hot tub capital of the planet. We'd like to be famous for other things, including our music. Scooters, nobody expected scooters to be this level of problem. I will say since the council began to crack down on them, it is much better. They're corrals, they're fewer operators, they're not being littered everywhere. Probably not enough yet for the city to embrace them. And then, the safety, we're responsible for them not being safely operated in a couple of ways. One, in the history of scooters in Nashville, there has never been a single ticket written to anybody for inebriation or messing with traffic or crossing where they shouldn't. We just have not enforced it. So that's a little bit unfair to the scooter operators. And secondly, we never gave them the appropriate space to operate in. They shouldn't be on the sidewalks, and they shouldn't be in the middle of traffic. You kind of have to have your own kind of bike lane-ish way. And I know some people that work downtown. They park at the stadium, and they take scooters over to their work downtown. They like that. It makes a certain amount of sense. It's efficient. Okay, that use doesn't seem that bad. But that's a long way from them, people riding them to the airport on I-40, which has also happened, I believe.
Yeah.
I've seen it for
You've
sure.
seen it, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But we, the scooter side, then you say, well, all right, maybe we can one day have spaces for scooters to go. Well, then what are we doing? We're selling the parking meter right away downtown to a private party. You're never going to have the space to operate them correctly if you're doing that bad deal. That bad deal is actually in this budget. It is in this budget. The minute this administration plans on going ahead and selling the parking meters, and it's bad, we can spend some time on that in every which way that you ever saw. But back to scooters, if you're going to have scooters, you have to have that right of way to create a safe space for them to go in. It's not there yet, so until you get there, you probably shouldn't be risking people's lives. I'm kind of fond of saying 10 out of 10 emergency room doctors can't be wrong. Scooters are, really have injured a lot of people, it seems.
Right. Well, since we're talking about downtown and bad decisions by the current administration, so a huge story in the last news cycle or whatever was the cherry trees down in the Nashville draft. Was that just kind of like fake news, or how would you have headed that off to not have the same kind of fiasco? I don't know. What do we call it?
Well,
yeah.
It's kind of an odd news story, right?
Well, it is. It's a weirdly Nashville news story. The cherry trees, I think, are very important in 2019 because the cherry trees are kind of the symbol that we all worried might be happening to Nashville, which is that untrammeled growth or the quest to be an international destination is causing us to lose something that is precious to us. So the trees themselves are a symbol of kind of this cute, wonderful city that are we really willing to cut down in order to host a one-time event. So once you get beyond the symbolism, it is very powerful in Nashville politics. It is, in a way, one of the 5 or 6 reasons that got me to run for mayor, because I do have a little bit of a message you have to think about, and it was the cherry trees, I think, that allowed me to understand that the people already knew my message. They already were ahead of me in being worried about what this meant. What are we willing to sacrifice for growth? What are we willing to sacrifice for growth? And so that just confirmed to me that this message that I'd had over the years in the council was the people were ready to hear it. Now, the draft is interesting because the draft was super successful. We're glad to have it. Great. It ended up costing you money. Isn't that amazing? The general fund had to cover $1.4 million in overtime for police and fire. That's never been reimbursed for. Something that successful, the city is managed in a way that we are not making money off of.
Right.
And we're all happy to have it, but it needs to pay for itself, and it needs to pay us back a little something. Because why have all this tourist success if it costs you money? Because you're going to have more traffic, your prices are going up, you're going to pay more in rent. You have all these costs of having it there. You need to get something back. So, country music star, older, just fantastic Jeannie Seeley was telling me the other day that she goes and plays in Branson, Missouri. A lot of folks go up there, very successful. In Branson, Missouri, every child has a computer, paid for by the tourism revenues that have come to that town. And I'm like, that is not happening in Nashville, right? We do not know. We had never established a way of us making money off of tourism. So we in the city end up having all the costs, and we never negotiated how to get some of the benefits. So my being mayor that's what's going to happen. We have to reinvest in tourism. You have to do it right. You have to grow the tourism business, et cetera. But you have to give something back out to the county, because why did you do it? And right now, we can spend some time on it. The way the whole finances of downtown were set up, the sales taxes and the hotel taxes and everything go back to the convention and visitor system, either the building or to the bureau. And yes, 1%, about $12 to $15 million comes back to the city in hotel taxes. We pay in cash to the Omni Hotel every year that amount of money. You pay in cash basically as much as the city makes in its share of the hotel tax. That shows how we got here. So this question, everybody asks this question. In this time of the biggest boom of this city, or maybe almost any cities, how is it that we're not able to have the money? I had a friend in town going, you must be rolling in money for the city. No, we didn't set it up to make money off of this growth. So you got to make some adjustments going forward to do it in order to be fair to people. So another question people have, and thank you for letting me talk about finances, is, well, what about the property taxes? You famously were not for increasing property taxes. Well, no, how can I raise taxes on you, right, when we never got back some of the dividend from the tourist space? Until you readjust getting something back from all that, as every other city in the world that has tourists and the entire state of Florida has figured out how to do, right? Everybody else has gone through this natural growth process and figured out, let's get something back, and let's us get something back. It doesn't have to be, it's not stopping anything, but it is getting a dividend back out, basically, hopefully, to our teachers, our police, and our fire.
Well, good. I mean, people definitely were asking about that and wondering how can you, basically you answered it. How can we get more out of the tourists? And so I'm glad you answered that. People definitely were interested. People also want to know, how do you make Nashville a greener city? And they want to know how high is that on your priority list?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of ways to read green. One is literally green, right? Trees, right? And for count under Angie Henderson's leadership, we really have a improved tree ordinance so that stuff that gets cut down has to be replaced. Right. And then I have a kind of a planning guru who came to Nashville, very famous in the profession. He said, John, it's very easy to make a great city. You have beautiful streets with many trees. And if you figure out an urban planning to have beautiful streets with many trees and make the streetscape green from that standpoint, that it's someplace that you want to be, then people will want to be there, you will want to be there, businesses will want to be there, and it will flourish. Now, if you mean green in terms of environmentally appropriate and sustainable in the years ahead, well, we do have a super big challenge there, and we've not done a great job at it. The council has passed some requirements, for example, of low-emission cars and fleets and everything. But, all of our garbage dump, really bad stuff, where it goes? It goes to Rutherford County. And they're filling up. It's just a few more years of our ability to do that, and we are not prepared for the future in terms of our own refuse and waste. And we've had the inability to figure out a good location for a food digester, all the food waste. We're not even really able to deal with food waste appropriately within the county. There have been some good ideas. Some people have put together very innovative technology packages, mostly from Europe and California. It'd be a huge pilot. We'd be really the envy of a whole lot of states by pioneering it. We've never been able to find a location. Now, I hope it can be put, say, on the airport or next to our solid waste disposal, and then have food waste taken there, and then it's converted into fertilizer and energy. Right. Very marvelous, and clearly to be on a planet going forward, you got to go ahead and figure this kind of stuff out.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So then people also want to, speaking of green, what are your thoughts on marijuana being introduced into Tennessee? I mean, obviously medicinal, but then even recreational.
Well, I'm on board medicinal. Anybody who we had who's, as I have had the privilege of being with terminal patients, for whom I think clearly it would have aided in that. It's been a privilege of my life to be with some of these people in the last years of their life and doing it. So yeah, I think we all have to be on board of that. As to the other, well, it's never going to be a metro decision. It's going to be a state legislative decision. And and again, let's see what's happened in other states. I think the next generation, it clearly probably will be legalized by the time you get there, but it's going to be informed by Oregon and Colorado and everybody else's experience in it. I am a little bit cautious, though, in any of this space, that you get distracted by approving of that, and then you don't get focused on the thing you have to get focused on, which is opioids.
Right.
Okay, and that, I mean, heard yesterday somebody from Seattle talking, they're not that fond of Seattle, right? And needles and everything. In Puget Sound, the shellfish there have opioids in them. That's so much, it's been dumped in the ocean enough that you can't eat a mussel without being worried about whether you have opioids in the tissue of that. I mean, that means it is just, that's a stupefying amount of abuse that has gone on.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, to think about it, it is starting to be addressed a little bit more, so that is a good thing. But still, we're a long way.
Well, in our deaths, it's hundreds a year in Davidson County.
Yeah.
People don't always realize it, but it's the hundreds of deaths. This is more than traffic accident deaths is happening in opioids.
So speaking about epics, of course, there's been a lot of gun-related tragedies in the news lately, to the point where some states have come out and said that they don't feel like the federal government is doing enough to regulate guns, and they might have to take that legislation in their own hands. As a mayor of Nashville, how much really control do you have over those decisions, and is there any way that you can even, I know it's like a powder keg issue almost, it's like whether you're...
it's a question you always want to look at it. One of the first things you learn in a city government is this saying, cities are creations of the state. So now the state has a whole lot of authority in America. I mean, depending on your view, too much or too little, but it's a whole lot. And cities, in doing something like this, whatever you were going to do in something that is it's all up to the state legislature. So we have we need to focus on things like preparedness for these kind of problems. That's what you have to do at the city level. Every city in the country now has to have a drill on these kind of horrific emergencies and make sure that you're up to that. And that's going to be the city's responsibility to it. You can complain about having to do it, and we all do, and horrified that the modern day risks that you can be in Dayton or El Paso, I tell you, the list is pretty amazing through California and Las Vegas and Colorado and Connecticut and Florida. That you sit there and you go, wow, this is sort of a systematic risk. So cities do have to be prepared for that. But on all these other questions, you got to leave it to the legislature because that's where the law is, I believe.
Right. I mean, we've had one in Nashville, the Waffle House situation.
Yes, we have.
So,
we have. Unfortunately, we have to put Nashville on that list.
So you're right. The list is ridiculous at this point. Hopefully they can come up with something. I don't know. It is a crazy issue, divided issue. I mean, so we'll see what happens. But what about the police force? I mean, a lot of people ask, how are you going to make the police force, I guess, better, more pay? I mean, teachers, officers, and
well, we're going to try to get some money back from the tourist space, right? We're going to put that into pay, teacher, police, fireman pay. You're going to do the best you can because that's your first obligation of doing it. The police force is seriously understaffed. 100, 130, the number fluctuates because people are leaving all the time. They're incoming classes, but that takes a long time. You're losing more than you're gaining probably on that battle. Morale is not good. So you got to do pay and a change in morale, and ultimately you've got to shift over to community protection, sometimes known as community policing. I mean, there was a system that was brought to Nashville some years ago that was also known as this kind of quota system. It came out of New York City with Giuliani, where having a whole lot of traffic stops seemed to be helpful. There was never any data for that, but we adopted it. It seemed to work in New York, but that's probably more anecdotal than other things. It's very hard when crime goes up and down to know exactly what the cause is. Yes, you have crimes committed and you have criminals, but why do some places go up and down? Chicago's murder rate is fantastically high, for example. Well, there are a lot of reasons for that. more than one reason. So when you ever have a multivariate kind of explanation for something that, can you ever really figure out what to do? So it's a long-winded way of saying our policies here have been hard on the police and hard on the communities. That it's just, let's measure the stops. No, let's measure crime. Right. And then let's go back to this older fashioned model of really having the police be the partner of the community as opposed to riding through and being part of something else. Right. It is a little bit more costly, but you have to change that model. And ultimately, it has to have a police force that looks exactly like the community that it's helping.
Mm-hmm.
That would make a lot of sense.
Well, it's hard to do, and you're going to have to start on it and recruit it. I mean, I say it's hard to do. It's the right thing to do. I'm totally with you, John. See, it's John's on this side of the table. It's the right thing to do, but it doesn't happen that often. We are on the right side of that. It doesn't happen that often. Now, I was endorsed by the FOP, the Fraternal Order of the Police, in this, which I'm very proud of. And they would be the first group to agree with a whole lot of communities that nobody's happy in the current situation. But both groups would also say, hey, public safety probably is the number one priority of a city. It's certainly the number one risk of downtown. Mm-hmm. That if you had an event downtown with 15.5 million tourists, you could lose 2 million bachelorettes in a heartbeat from coming to Nashville. And that would be devastating.
It would be, yeah. I mean, even the impact of a lot. Yeah, it would hurt the city. So we don't want to see that for sure. I mean, it's good you got the endorsement of FOP, though. That speaks a lot for them to put their, they're a tight-knit group. I used to work there for years as non-officer. But, yeah, I mean, I kind of know when you were talking about the traffic stops and all that.
Well, they want somebody that they feel is a good partner and negotiates with them in good faith. Right. And, they're like everybody else that way. Now, we did talk about bachelorettes. I heard a really interesting thing the other day. It's a little bit real estate-y, but I'm from real estate. So this new Four Seasons hotel, I'm told, is fantastic, high-end. It's amazing, amazing that it's here. That it's being designed for bachelorettes. What does that mean? It means suites with many bedrooms, but it comes into a big bathroom where everybody can come and put on their makeup together. So you have a super huge mirror and counter so that because that's the fun of a bachelorette party, is getting ready together. And so that's a big commitment to the industry space if you're redesigning a hotel for bachelorette parties. And it shows that Nashville is we're off in a different, part of the economy. By that being one of your fanciest, largest hotels ever is really being designed for bachelorettes. That's a big thing. That is a big part of your local business.
Okay, well, I've got a really hard-hitting, serious question for you. Okay. How do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
No, I can't get there. It's too weird.
Too weird?
It's too weird. I hear it's really good. It's really, really good.
John, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I understand. I hear it's really good. And it's my failure to try it, but it's hard to just get over the whole thing. Pizza's pizza, man. Pepperoni.
Have you ever grilled a piece of pineapple?
Well, I have, and that is good.
I'm just saying.
I know the sugar.
Are you over here trying to sell your point, right? The man made his decision. Okay, you let him.
He said he hasn't tried it yet.
Well, I've tried.
And see, he said he couldn't.
I've tried grilled pineapple, and I've tried grilled pizza, and it just doesn't. You have the pineapple after the pizza.
There you go.
Right.
Thank you.
You're mixing your courses here and all in one.
I see what you did there, and it blew up in your face, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're right. I'm a pineapple and pizza guy. So I've also heard that you're a big fan of hot chicken. Is that true?
Well, I'm just out there. I'm honest with you. I can't. This hot is too hot for me, particularly in some places that it is served. I need the white bread and the milk. Absolutely.
Well, that's all. I mean, but you still.
Let me go ahead and admit it.
That's fine.
I can't go hot with it, but it is amazing, like Bachelorettes, how hot chicken has kind of taken over and is very famous. But it shows where food is in the modern American world, that cooking, preparation, eating it, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing economically. I was in Nolensville Road at a big forum with a lot of awesome new Americans, and I was reciting all the foods that they brought to Nolensville Road in our country. And really, each of those foods is an industry. Each one of those can be sold. Nolensville Road is going to be maybe a national tourist destination. Oh, when you were in Nashville, did you go eat in Nolensville Road? Because you had Spanish, Latin American, Asian, amazing foods brought to us from all over the world. Nashville has a large Nepalese community from Nepal. Who knew? It's amazing, and you can either benefit from that and grow with it, or not, I suppose. But our decision as a city is to enrich our lives with all these people who are here bringing all these amazing foods.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Now, pineapple, is that an Hawaiian? Who invented that, I wonder? Right.
Somebody not in the right mind.
Somebody had
obviously, yeah. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's not good. And,
It's not good.
And these guys try to jump on this bandwagon with every guest we have, and most of the time they fail. So that's all we got to say about that.
I see how it is.
It
But
is.
just
Hey, and when it all comes down to it, I don't care if you like it or not. I do.
You do, right.
So
yeah, we're trying to get everyone to call it no row. I don't know if that is
No-ro.
going to catch on, but
No-ro.
no row.
No row.
And there are some places that are actually Nashville famous for sure. I think there's like a taco place. I can't remember the name of it, but they have some kind of like to die for taco. So is there a particular hot chicken place that you can't say no to?
That I can't say no to?
Right.
Well, if it's mild with white bread, I say yes to all of them. I was sad that the original Prince's location is going to close. I mean, it kind of breaks your heart that something that, your whole life, it's there, and it's this kind of private little secret in Nashville. Mary's Barbecue, by the way, still on Jefferson, which is one of these old-time places. I'm glad there is another location for Prince's, and, Hattie B's is a fine product, and, I do like how you got hot chicken connoisseurs, because I grew up here. I was born here. There was a time when none of us would have said, "Oh, hot chicken, that's so Nashville."
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, really? Okay. Okay. And I love the lore because it enriches Everett life, how it was invented, and who started with it and who likes it, and cultural richness and the authenticity of the original hot chicken experience. Man, that you see how powerful that is, because it's now, I think Kentucky Fried Chicken has a Nashville hot chicken
They
all
do.
over the country.
They
It's,
do, yeah.
amazing. We should be flattered. But if I were to eat it every day, I tell you, that would be the end of me.
Yeah, every day is a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd
like,
be the end of me.
I'm like, yeah, man, I love it. I've had the hot at Prince's and
All
all
right,
that, but
all right.
but as I get older, I'm dialing it down a little bit. I still love it. I love the taste, but yeah, I go out with coworkers. They're getting hot. Good luck with that.
Now the banana pudding, that goes a long way with me too.
Okay.
Curative.
So we have banana pudding. Are there any other top foods for you? Because we've had a few guests that have surprised us with some of their answers. So
Well, banana pudding is way up there. for
I'm
me,
a
I have to
huge
say.
fan of banana pudding
Yeah,
myself.
I mean, it's way up there. There's nothing better. Little known fact, there are towns in Kentucky that are the banana pudding festival capital of the world. Why in
Where is
Kentucky?
this?
Right.
Yeah, we're going.
Right. Well, look it up. And why was it there? Is because the old bananas used to be shipped by train, and they were warehoused in this town in Kentucky, which is now the banana pudding. For the moment, I don't remember what it is. But all those bananas have very little relation to the banana that you eat. That in the late 1950s, a banana plague went global and destroyed almost 99.9% of all the banana trees in existence. And what you eat now is known as the Cavendish banana, that came from a clipping from China that went to England and was resistant to this disease. And the Cavendish banana has been replanted around the whole world. And apparently the Cavendish banana is not a tenth of what the old banana was. So when the original banana pudding was, when I make it, I may roast bananas to try to get a little bit more banana taste, or put in, banana juice, and do anything you can to juice it. Apparently, old-fashioned banana pudding was like you never had anything like it. It was that good because of the bananas that no longer exist. But it shows the problem of monoculture, that if you just standardize on one particular type of plant, then you're susceptible to disease that can wipe the whole thing out. If you don't dare take an outside banana into Australia now, because there's a little bit of a Cavendish banana plague, See what's
There
coming
you
out
go.
of the
I
show,
never knew
Blaine,
this.
or-
Yeah, there you go.
And they're terrified that their banana industry will be wiped out by one of these or Cavendish kind of plagues. And so there's like nothing more serious than taking a foreign banana into Australia. And I think Johnny Depp's girlfriend was arrested and put on trial because she brought in a banana on private jet and
I never liked her anyway.
didn't claim it. I think they have been suing each other anyway.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, they got in a little bit of trouble for bringing.
But that was the crime, was you brought in a foreign banana into Australia because the global plague and monoculture is that serious. It's that
There you go.
serious.
Wow. I really kind of want to like you to commercially produce your banana pudding now.
Yes, I
Sounds
do.
like
I
you
do.
put-
Well, you roast them.
That's the secret.
Right. Sure. Or you,
Have you had the banana pudding with the Nutter Butters? Have you had that before?
no, but I'm liking how you're thinking.
That's a big thing. It's a
I'm
big
liking
thing.
how you're thinking. Really? Okay. All right.
So I have another question. So like some famous politicians like Bill Clinton are known for playing the saxophone. And of course Nashville being a music town. Have you ever had any music inclination? Maybe the
Boy,
banjo or the
now
harmonica?
my campaign is probably over. I am remarkably kind of not good. Now, I do have a son who's a super duper violinist. He's
Oh, wow.
14 and he's fantastic. He plays with the youth symphony and violin, fiddle and violin. So I am around it, and I understand how hard it is for parents to get the time, the effort, the lessons. It's a whole lot of discipline and dedication, by both the parents and the children. But fortunately, in our youngest, it's been great. But as for myself, I have to say, I'm just not good at it. I'm going to go ahead
That's
and
all
admit
right.
it. I'm not that good at it.
I don't know
I enjoy
yeah.
it, but I'm not that good at it.
Some people don't want necessarily all the time a politician getting up there rocking the guitar.
I
It's like, how about,
am a terrible dancer too.
there you go.
But,
We want you behind the desk making
yes,
things happen.
right,
You know,
okay,
so
right.
we
Just
can go-
you don't want to see me dance or listen to me sing.
we're with you. We're with you. John, did you have something you wanted to ask? You were kind of talking about it before it started.
I mean, I hate to get back on that serious.
I'm fine. I'm good.
I think that the pineapple question kind
Well,
of threw us off of a train right there. But from what I've noticed in the news quite a bit here lately is a lot of crimes involving teens,
yes.
and it seems like something that's weighing on me. I mean, I've got two kids, and they're very far away from that age. They're 3 and 6 months, but it
Well,
just
three
seems,
and okay.
it just seems
Right,
like
right. What are we doing?
what can we do about this, and what do you think would be a good answer? And the only thing that I could think of personally is if we increase punishments for repeat offenders. I think that would be something that would help deter.
Well, repeat offenders, you mean from teenage repeat offenders? Anybody. Well, yeah, it's hard to put up with a repeat offender, particularly if it was something terrible that you weren't on it. The youth crime is actually one of the more asked questions in the mayoral space. It is a concern of everybody, and it seems like a particular failure and opportunity, because if we do it right and you get people on the right track, boy, that's fantastic. And if they're in the wrong track, then they'll have their whole lives, and society will have its whole lives of repeat offenders, conceivably. So there are a lot of nonprofits that are doing great work in this space. Gentlemen Not Gangsters is one that's really remarkable. Gideon's Army has a violence interrupters program that's great, and there are quite a few that are working one kid at a time. But you also have to promote activities for kids. It's sports, it's after school activities. There's something called the NASA program that Mayor Dean brought here from really Providence, Rhode Island, which is the After Zone Alliance's after school activities for a couple of thousand kids. It's giving them something to do. It's not really school because it's more fun than that, but it's also very enriching. Doesn't have to be educational necessarily, but it's enriching, and that's been, I think, very successful. In cities that have these kind of programs, who the big supporter of these is the police department, because they can feel the effect of improvement in the communities by folks having something to do and something constructive to do. So you have to appreciate success, reward success, move on with success, make the nonprofits that are doing good work in this regard. But mostly, this is a question of where city money should go. You probably put that money where you get the most lifetime yield out of it. So I'm a big fan of middle school ACT prep. Boy, because you're not changing ACT scores in senior year, you're building up to improved ACT scores. We're in an environment that if you have a good ACT, a certain number ACT score, all these scores are good. I mean, in the sense it's a very hard test. Then you get college support. You get, you really then people put on a ladder where you get additional resources. That's just the system that we're in. So that's a very high return on that investment for middle school ACT scores, which is a little bit of a side branch on the violent, how do we get people on the right track early, but it's not. It's you enrich their lives, you get them focused, you get programs that is one kid at a time. And don't think that it, I think, happens any other way. It's one kid at a time.
There you go. All right. Well, so we got 2 Johns on here. So every week, John, we listeners send us in questions and we try to give them advice, and it's called, well, I'll play the song, you'll hear it. It's called Dear John.
Dear John.
All right, so the setup is someone has written in a question. John usually helps them. They write to John for help. Okay. He's not very good at it. So people have been helping him. So John, this 2 Johns will make a right, Johns. I'm sure. Right. So Lee's going to read it. You guys listen, and then we'll see where it goes.
This one comes in. Dear John, we moved to the country, but we're really not far out of town. My educated, urbane, professional husband, who has always lived in the city, now bypasses our 2.5 bathrooms and relieves himself outdoor in a, quote, king of all he surveys pose. We no longer have children living at home, and he refrains from doing it when we have company or there's a possibility of his being seen, but it still drives me crazy. Could I be jealous because I am female, or should I join him from Relieve Me?
John Torts, what you got?
That sounds like he's just being silly. I could see myself doing the same thing. I could see, I mean, I don't know about this John, but I could see the other original members of the Blame Your Brother crew doing the same thing in a situation. If you knew there were no repercussions, it's just fun. It's funny. He's probably doing it just to rile you up a little bit too. I know I pick on my wife quite a bit, and so I mean, just probably the more reaction you give him, the more he's going to do it. So I mean, just let it go. Not like he's letting it go, but you know.
Well, John, the guest.
Yes.
Do you concur with his?
Do I concur?
Most people don't.
I just never expected in this campaign to have this particular question. You learn something all the time. I gotta say, she has an appropriate point. This is not really acceptable if you're not willing to do it with company. Why are you putting your own family through this? It's not 2 standards for behavior. So, I got to disagree with my friend on this side here.
Another one.
This is, you can't. And also, I mean, it's true. It's true. Women have much higher standards of behavior, and we need to live up to them.
There we go. What a lesson right there. John, no. I would not go outside and use the bathroom and yell out. What does he yell out on the king?
I think the madman wants him to do it in front of company is what he's saying.
No, I do not. I do not. There's some things
well,
that
the question ends with, should she join him or not? That's what she wants to know.
I mean, if you really want him to stop, that might get him to stop if she went out there with him.
It's the decline of culture.
There you go. Well, I think we're going to go with John, the guest, and not Jay Tort this week on that's Dear John. So you didn't know what you were getting into there. So there you go. Yes, but you can email John any week, and we will get to his questions. It's ridiculous.
It may be the only position that gets uniformly endorsed.
There you
the
go.
County. It's my position on the outdoor relieving.
There you go. All right, so we're starting to wrap the show up, but we want to talk more about the campaign a little bit. So you're moving forth. New poll came out.
Yep.
Shows you're ahead.
Right.
Early numbers are good if
Right.
they're late
Very good.
numbers. But what are you doing now in the final stretches? Like I said, there's about 5 weeks left. What are you doing in the final stretches to seal the deal, to connect with the voters?
Well, I spent the afternoon in Bordeaux knocking on houses, meeting people one at a time. It's this thing you learn. I mean, I've been around politics, but I've not really done it. Is campaigns are education for the candidate. That's where you go out and you learn what people want, right? And you hear what they need. You may not be able to get it done all the time, but that's why it's important to get out there and put yourself out there. Now, you're kind of vulnerable because there's a lot of need out there, and it's completely humbling when people are like, I'm depending on you to get this done for us. But from that standpoint, it's an incredible experience, and it's something that you should not be electing anybody who has not been doing this campaign thing, because it teaches you a lot about the community and a lot about what you should be doing. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it. So we're knocking on doors. You try to get in the newspaper as much as you can, or any podcast that will have you. You are there as much as possible. And you go all out. I mean, our early poll numbers are fantastic because we ran the campaign to be in the runoff, right? That if we got to the runoff, then people were pretty comfortable that we would win the election. Now, getting into the runoff, that can be a challenge for sure. But here we are, and I think our message is unifying to the county that I'm a Democrat, of course, but I say of course, but I was raised as a Democrat and long history there, but independents and Republicans too, because it's not about R&D, it is about dollars and cents, and are we getting people paid, and it's much more a business problem in Nashville, Tennessee, than it is some political or ideological problem. In part because the legislature, the Congress, they're not going to give us ideological choices. They give us business choices. Are you operating the school bus system correctly? Right? Is your pension fund out of balance, and do you have enough money to pay pensions? That kind of just basic business decisions, by and large. Every now and then there's an occasional tweak, but let's not kid ourselves. You're a mayor, you got about 10,000 employees, you got about 11,000 people in the school system. You're going to be responsible for getting those people paid and how they work every day to deliver services for people. When I began to run, somebody came and said, you must like picking up trash a lot. And I'm like, well, as much as the next person. It says, that's the job of the mayor. To get your trash picked up, to get your sidewalks built, to get your roads paved, to get great teachers in schools. That's the job. It is not ideological, particularly. Again, there's some of that, but it's administrative much more than you think.
There you go.
And I would also say vote. Like, if you're listening, make sure you're out there and you actually vote.
So, yeah.
Oh, my
all agree
goodness.
to that.
In 1971, 112,000 people voted. Last week, a little over 100,000 people voted. 2015, I think 103,000 people voted. Fewer people are voting than in the 1970s and 60s.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a discussion for another day for sure. So when is the election?
September the 12th, 5 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
It'll have the same procedure as the last one, which early voting will start in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And you'll have these polls open for about a week or 10 days. 5, 6 stations around in Nashville that you could go and vote. Half the people do vote early now, and then it goes a few days. It goes dark before the election day, Thursday, September the 12th, and about half the people historically end up voting on that day.
All right, September 12th, or early voting starts in the next few weeks, so be paying attention for that. So where can people find out more about you, about your campaign, social media?
John Cooper for Nashville.com. It's a website. We actually have a 50-page policy book that if people want, it can come to you in a written form too. It's quite a little book, I have to say. And that has many of my kind of policy positions and thoughts in it on education, transportation. particularly city finances and transparency, which is where the city has been a particular failure, frankly.
Yeah.
So all of that in that book, John Cooper for Nashville.com, and call me, invite me to your neighborhood association meeting to talk, your civic club. I go everywhere that I'm invited. I'm going to have a busy 5 weeks, but again, it's a fantastic experience for anybody, but particularly me. And if you want to be mayor, this is your education.
There you go, John Cooper for Nashville. Definitely go check that out, September 12th. And if you want to check out more about us, we are Blame Your Brother. Go to blameyourbro.com. That's our website. It's got all of our social media links, podcast, all that good stuff's on there. And, if you're new listening for the first time, check us out. Check out some past episodes. But, John, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, brothers. Very little blaming went on, and none of my brothers were blamed.
Not yet. Well, next week is a new week. No, but, thank you so much. The big thing. We're going to be watching, and, it looks good for you. So we're going to hope that success continues, and we'll, give you a big congratulations.
And when you win,
yeah,
we're going to take the blame for it.
When I win, we're going to have a little bit of pineapple pizza.
Oh, you heard it here first. There you go. Well, I guess with that being said, Lee, is there anything else?
Don't blame yourself when you can blame your brother.
153.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.